live. Make sure you check out the encore presentation of this show on the RudeDogShow.com. I have a variety of interviews, shows with today's sports personalities on SoundCloud. Man, what a wild chain of events today. And I'm not just talking about the Adrian Peterson move headed over from the New Orleans Saints, but from where he's at to, well, Arizona.
At the Home Depot.
Arizona last in the NFL when you're talking about
better scrubability.
About what he brings to the running game for Arizona, being 32nd in the NFL in rushing yards. But more importantly, I wanted to talk about this whole Roger Goodell letter. It's not necessarily an enforcement letter. I don't know if anybody should get that twisted. I think it's more of a letter stating that this is not how I want this to go. I want all players in unity. I want to make sure that everybody's on the same exact page. Thank you, Senator, for tuning in. Have fun at the gym. I wish I was there. But instead, I'm exercising my right to speak and my jaw. You can see that jaw moving. Anyway, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. But look, this whole Goodell thing can be taken way out of proportion very quickly. Everybody has take. Everybody wants to talk about it. That there are too many people taking advantage of this kneeling situation. Now, again, this is my interpretation. I am not saying that this is the rule. This is just merely my interpretation. So let me just set that right up front. But I will say this. When you look at this Goodell ruling, it's creating a lot of fire right now, not only on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Everybody's talking about it. And I'll be honest with you, somebody brought up a good point. My friend Giliberti has said, what does this have to do with money? And I said, well, it has something to do with money because there can be rules in place by the NFL to all NFL teams stating that if they choose to kneel, they could get penalized. Now, by all means, it has to go through the NFLPA. They have to rule on it, and all 32 teams, all 2,500 plus players have to sign on to this. And as far as being monetarily driven is concerned, I don't know that to the fact that that's going to actually be what happens. But I can tell you when I look at what's going on now, have players made their statement in the NFL? I mean, haven't they said what they needed to say? Is this an ongoing message? Is this more of a distraction than anything else? Lots of questions, very little answers. But I think there's certainly an answer as we move forward. We're talking about New Orleans Saints trading Adrian Peterson to the Arizona Cardinals after the realization, and I'm going to have to say no-brainer to that one, after he didn't fit in their offensive scheme. So when I look at Adam Schefter's report, I think to myself, well, it's about time. It's about time the Saints figured out that Adrian Peterson is not for their backfield. They're better off having who they have and working with that. But as they acquired Adrian Peterson, they made cuts with Johnson. And it's kind of sad that had to take place. But look, bottom line is this. If you're in the backfield for Arizona and you don't know the way to pay dirt, you're really not going to do very well in the NFL. And I think to myself, man, he didn't fit in the scheme. He didn't fit in the plan. He was a square peg in a round hole. And it begs the question that ownership and Sean Payton were probably off point here when they acquired Adrian Peterson. Looking at the lack of carries, yards after the catch, and honestly just look out of place in that Saints backfield. 81 yards on 27 attempts. That's not what I call productive. I don't call it productive. There's nothing productive about it. And I can't imagine what it would be like from Adrian Peterson's standpoint, having to sit on the sidelines for the majority of the games that he played, thinking, you know what, this is not where I want to be. Based on the carries, based on the lack of production, could it be where he wanted to be? The answer to that is no. I didn't hear Minnesota calling him. I didn't hear anything from his agent. I didn't see anything on social media. Yeah, there's no way look at Adrian Peterson to be the resolution in the backfield or being used in the slot. However, he could. He could have easily fit in that offensive system. Since he knows it so well, he's more familiar with it than anybody else in the NFL, at least right now, being a free agent. prior to being signed on to the New Orleans Saints and in turn traded to the Arizona Cardinals. But using Peterson in the slot achieved less desired results, targeted twice, 2 receptions for 4 yards. This could be a blessing in disguise for Adrian Peterson and possibly a match made in football heaven where the football gods join them together, because at last glance, Arizona have defined themselves dead last in the NFL in rushing yards this year. Look at the upside. The Saints have Mark Regan, who's been very productive for them with 170 yards in 42 attempts and averaging 4 yards per carry with the Saints. It's a far cry from where they truly wanted Peterson to fit in their system. Areas in his career and infinite wisdom has a lot to do with understanding the running back position. He's had the pleasure of having one, and at least did have one, and then, of course, that name comes to mind, David Johnson, who's been a dynamo for the Cardinals. Unfortunately, sidelined this year with a wrist injury occurring September 12th. For at least 3 months, the expected return date is December. Look, this is probably an unexpected trade, and for some, it was certainly a much-needed trade, but I will put Peterson in a better position and give him an Arizona running game that's been absolutely garbage from the onset of this season. And of course, now it would be more easily to suggest, now that Johnson is gone, to state that Peterson will be the premier back to help this team become something much more than what it has not been seen on the ground this season. I foresee something much bigger and better and faster and more dynamic happening in the Valley of the Suns for the Cardinals if they can stick to their assignments on the offensive line by allowing Adrian Peterson to burst through. You can also see some play action, possibly by putting Peterson in the slot, making the passing game more available and more easily read by Carson Palmer, and make that would-be running game much more livelier. So far, you've seen Larry Fitzgerald become the workhorse of the passing game with over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns on the year, followed up by Andre Ellinger and additional contributors. He's received 28 catches with over 257 yards, and all he needs is, well, a touchdown. And you can't count out J.J. Nelson with 2 touchdowns or Jerron Brown with a touchdown. Either way, the receiver spots are solidified. However, when you add Adrian Peterson into this mix, much more can be had with him in the running game. As we're now 5 weeks into the NFL season, this team will have much more success with play action. And with all due respect to what Chris Johnson had done, he didn't find the end zone. That's one of the reasons why the Arizona Cardinals decided to part ways with the 6-year veteran. But someone manages to find the end zone. Well, unfortunately, Karen Williams does, but with that, a fumble or 2 along the way. If you're Bruce Arians, there's much less ownership involved in the process, meaning you put Adrian Peterson on the field, you stick him in the classroom, you let him read, see, diagnose, understand his role, understand the play calls. Could they be that much more different than they are in New Orleans? Could he bring something to the Cardinals that they have not had for the last couple of years at least? And of course, without David Johnson, makes him even that less dynamic on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, in all fairness to Johnson, he's been given the opportunities. He really has. But not to be able to capitalize them is another story altogether. In either situation, Peterson is primed and ready to explode onto the scene in Arizona. Most have forgotten about what he did for Minnesota. But now that Dalvin Cook was out, I'm really surprised and shocked that he didn't get a call. But I didn't expect the Vikings would even consider bringing Peterson in, despite what he had done for them during his tenure in Minnesota. I think it was a matter of not having him back, regardless of who they did or did not have in the personnel packages, as you've seen last night. Speaking of the Vikings and the return of Sam Bradford last night on Monday, it would have been better for them not to have returned Sam Bradford under center last night, because he showed very little hype. Of course, very little hype was given. Very little hype was received as a winner. And the first-round pick by the Rams faltered last night against the Chicago Bears. Bradford was rusty at best and went 5 for 11 and only a meek 36 yards during last night's matchup. But what really added salt to injury for him is that whole injury was a non-contact injury. In other words, he made a scramble, he ran, he did what he had to do, and hurt himself in that motion. And what even hurt his case is that the Bears defense was playing very, very well, especially when they decided to call blitzes. There were safety blitzes. There were a variety of blitzes they put all over Sam Bradford, knowing that he isn't mobile. I'm not stating that Sam Bradford is mobile anyway, despite any of that. What I am saying is that Sam Bradford wait on that back foot on the same knee, injured, and not make those, not be able to step into it, not be able to put weight on it to sell that ball moving forward. It's all fluid motion. It's all forward motion. Obviously, Bradford was not ready for last night's game. I think everybody can agree with that. This was an anticipated start for Sam Bradford, however, and when you witness how he struggled, and he struggled mightily. He struggled with reads, trying to force things into too many areas where he had no business throwing it in. But when you witness how he struggled, what's going on, Ben, Cedric? Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I'm on Spreaker, by the way, so if you see me typing off to the side, it's exactly what I'm doing is I'm on Spreaker right now. So forgive me if I don't welcome them into the room. Thank you for joining me live on Spreaker, live on Facebook. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show on the Two Live Stews Radio Network. Come one, come all. And you're right, Ben. Bradford needs to retire and call it a day. He really does. But, you know, I actually have an answer to that. Here's the answer. You trade him off, you get rid of him, and hopefully get some type of decent draft pick out of him in the 2018 NFL Draft. We'll see. We'll see how that happens, if that even comes to fruition. Of course, most people are probably dooming, and of course, last night on social media, a gentleman was stating that Bradford looked bad, but so did Trubisky. And I thought to myself, okay, first NFL start for one at Soldier Field against a very solid defense with the Minnesota Vikings, and he had a horrible start. Well, how many quarterbacks have not thrown an interception in their first NFL start? If you believe that nobody has an NFL history, I have some swampland in Arizona to sell you. It's ridiculous. But I think it was more anticipated by Bradford's standard than anybody else. But in all honesty, it doesn't really surprise me that Zimmer made the decision to pull Bradford because of his anemic play. He made the move into the second half, put Case Keenum in the game. Keenum quickly made something out of nothing. He really, truly did. He threw right out of the gate 147 yards, including a touchdown. And I'll be honest with you, when I look at Case Keenum, he may not be the answer in Minnesota, but he's the answer in Minnesota right now. Keenum has fit nicely in this offense so far. But as of right now, and if I was Mike Zimmer, Keenum is your starter. Allow Bradford to get more therapy, heal more, and that has to all be considered and put into action before he ever sees being under center on an NFL field in the 2017 season. Period. And a story. And a story. I won't suggest that Bradford is still battling a knee injury and, of course, other various issues, I'm sure. Without that pressure on the back foot, just made him look that much more meek against an unknown opponent up until the call to pull Mike Lennon out for being under center and starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears. You put Trubisky, who made things happen on the run by being able to get out, become athletic, showing he can make throws on the run despite being picked off, showing he'll need a lot more time. But the Bears are moving in the right direction. There is no argument to that fact. He is a rookie now. Next year, even less. What happened to Jared Goff? Everybody had this big hype about Jared Goff when he was drafted last year by the St. Louis Rams, at least at that point. Now the Los Angeles Rams. We all know what happened there. No reason to go into any of that. But the bottom line is this. Had Jared Goff started last year, he'd be even better this year than he was the times that he started last year, because reps build familiarity. Reps build comfortable types of understanding in the pocket, right? So if you snap the ball, you're able to follow the reads. You're more than available to be able to move out of the pocket. Good afternoon, Steve. Thank you for joining me here on the Two Stews Radio Network, right here on the Rude I'm Facebook Live. I'm Spreaker. I'm live as I can possibly get. But I think Trubisky looked very good on the run. He was outstanding in the fact that he was pocket aware. When you're a quarterback, you're new, you're a rookie, you're quarterback aware, good things are to come. Again, very athletic, but again, he's a rookie. He threw the pick. Well, that's what happens, right? You're a rookie. I think he'll develop into something more so. He'll be a well-polished quarterback, and I think more than anything else, the Bears will certainly need that from him. And when I think of Trubisky, I think to myself, this guy fought through college at UNC, didn't see action for 3 years, came back to win multiple awards, won an award in high school, being named Mr. Football. And I think that with rookie mistakes, you're going to find that out this year. It's just one of those things that you're going to do. But look, there were rookie mistakes. I like Trubisky. I like what he brings to the offense. Did the team rally behind him? Somewhat, because of the lack of familiarity they have with him during any part versus yesterday on Monday Night Football. But I'll be honest with you, that last interception was the straw that broke the camel's back. And that's exactly what happened as the Vikings kicked the go-ahead field goal to win the game at Soldier Field. But I remember when it was 17-all and it looked really good to me. It looked like they were doing what they wanted to do. And I think more Trubisky fits. Every time I see that, every time I hear about it, it reminds me of yesterday when I seen the fake John Gruden talk about how it's Trubiscuits and gravy. I just thought that was hilarious. But hey, if that's what happens, if that's what you need is some biscuits to get you rolling, then so be it. Trubiscuits and gravy it is. But I'm looking around the league, and it makes you wonder which quarterbacks need to not only step up, but to be the leaders they signed on to be. Nothing worse than he may not have it anymore. Does it sound familiar, Steeler fans? An innate interpersonal relation means that your interior communication needs to be on point prior to possibly saying something that would otherwise allow others mean you, to misinterpret what you were saying aloud. You know where I'm going with this. Ben Roethlisberger continues to maintain his what happened at home against a very solid Jaguars defense. Look, it wasn't all about what Ben Roethlisberger didn't do, but literally what the Jaguars did. Put the pressure on early enough that the offensive line didn't do him any favors, being sacked twice. And I think to myself, was Ben ready to go? Nobody kneeled, right? Okay, just checking. Want to make sure that wasn't a distraction. You know how that goes nowadays. But I may have asked this before of other teams. Did Ben make the Jaguars look more dominant in the past game than they actually were? Or did Ben Roethlisberger try to force throws that he knew he shouldn't have made? And right now his ability to create more offense than his numbers at least this year have indicated have taken a dump, a slide, a spill, droplets on the ground, as he has one more interception than a touchdown this year. Roethlisberger threw 33 times for 55, 312 yards of offense, but with 5 interceptions, matches a career high, 5 turnovers. I think a little more interesting. Ben, at this point in the season, has managed to find a quarterback at the lowest point in his career at 75.8. The only other time that during a full, actually on a postseason for Big Ben was in 2006 when he managed a lower rating of 75.4. Now, mind you, we're only at almost the halfway point of the season with 75.8 versus 75.4 in 2006. Interesting dynamics, would you say? I expect Ben Roethlisberger to manage a way to rally one of the best offenses with the number of weapons he has surrounding him with, and be able to execute as the Steelers take on the 5-0 Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium. All this to take place on Sunday. It is a 1 o'clock game Pacific time. But my biggest question for Ben Roethlisberger is this. Would you be able to right the ship at this point early in the season? And if so, from a mental standpoint, understand the corrections you need to make moving forward in the regular season. What are you going to do to try to take down a resilient, fiery Justin Houston, Eric Berry? Excuse me, not Eric Berry. He went down in the prior week. But you have so many other playmakers on that Chiefs, in the Chiefs secondary and up front. They're on a tear at 5-0. Look, Alex Smith is looking like the best quarterback in the league right now, bar none. He really is. Hate to say that. Last year, not so much. Alex Smith is yet to throw an interception this year. Wow. He's a very different quarterback and could have comeback player of the year implications. Smith has thrown 11 touchdowns this year already. At this point in the season, he's maintained a solid quarterback rating of no less than 73 on the year. And that's at this point in the season. All last year, Alex Smith for all of 15 touchdowns last year. We've only been in the NFL season for a measly 5 weeks and already surpassed personal expectations. Including a loud vocal tight end and Travis Kelce, sometimes just needs to put a cork in it. He seems to get himself into trouble. He's very impressive, and you can't count him out in the short game. You just can't. The good thing about the DBs for the Steelers, they recognize the coverage, able to make the adjustments, and could shut him down as far as yards after catch if they happen and manage to tackle him from receiving the ball. But I think he seems to get into more trouble with his mouth, but his actions seem to back it up. However, status is unknown and uncertain at this point if he'll be out of commission against the Steelers due to a concussion he sustained last Sunday against the Texans at Energy Stadium in Houston. So how ironic would it be to see the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl? Okay, fine. I'm not saying they will, and I'm not saying they won't. Okay? I had the Oakland Raiders in the AFC. Can they do it with E.J. Manuel? No. Can they do it only with Marshawn Lynch in the running game? No. They cannot. There's no way. But the Chiefs have one thing, and that's being unbeaten. They only have one title? Sure. But if they manage to win the majority of their games this year, win the AFC West, get in the playoffs, the work is cut out for them. But they'll have to take out their frustrations out on a Steelers team who would beat them not only senseless last year, not once, but twice, once in the regular season, once in the postseason, at Heinz Field, 43-14. Everybody knows where that happened. It was the proverbial smackdown heard all over the NFL. Because here they are, the Chiefs were playing well, somehow don't find a way to play well against the Steelers. And what's even more interesting is that if that wasn't enough, and you're the Kansas City Chiefs, they were at home looking at postseason play and on a playoff run where they look to dominate at Arrowhead Stadium. The very same Ben Roethlisberger, well, at least then, or maybe not now, we'll find out Sunday, threw for 231 yards. Ben went for 20 for 31, and Tony Brown had 6 receptions for 108 yards, while Le'Veon Bell, 30 carries for 100 yards. And this team was firing on all cylinders, not only offensively, but they were on fire defensively. My brother happens to be a Kansas City Chiefs fan, and of course, I didn't hear him say Chiefs anytime during those sittings here at my house. He wanted it. Matter of fact, he left in the third quarter when it was already 36-14, or 36-14, excuse me. He already knew what was coming. It was a smackdown heard in the NFL. But this is not last year's Chiefs team. They didn't have Akeem Hunt. They didn't have all the weapons they have with Travis Kelce getting involved in the short yardage situation. And the bottom line is this. Steelers will have to drum up the same chemistry, execution, offensive play, calling they did last year. That's a little trickery on the side. And that would only put them in position to try and beat the Chiefs to keep this game close. To give you a real brief synopsis of what last week's scores were like around the NFL. I need to take a quick break first. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show on the 2 Live Stews Radio Network. I'll be right back.
How would you like to make the impossible possible? With professional and personal needs by Envision for You Concierge. With an array of services for you, the professional. So professional athletes, celebrities, VIP and corporate executives, Envision for You strives to assist with travel, hotel, luxury car service, dinner and show reservations, VIP services, as well as consumer relations. Envision for You also offers mobile services, as well as organic tanning, massage therapy, hair and makeup, men's grooming, fashion stylists, appointment setting, and more. Envision for You Concierge with nationwide services 24/7. Envision for You will never hesitate to go the extra mile for your professional and personal needs. So call today 323-300-4592. 323-300-4592 or visit online at envisionforyou.com.
Hey, welcome back to the Rude Dog Show. Welcome, Kelvin Colbert. Not related to Kevin Colbert, I can assure you. But I started off wanting to give you the scores around the league, but these are interesting facts here I'm going to give you, so really need to pay close attention to this. Kareem Hunt, rookie, out of Toledo. Against the Texans, 42-34. What a shootout it was. What a great game by Deshaun Watson. A little too late by Deshaun Watson and company. But that game, 107 yards, averaged almost 4 yards per carry, 3 receptions. The guy fumbled, but only in a win, and it was only once. After that one time he fumbled, he moved on. He realized that I have to hold on to the rock. How many situations in an NFL locker room or an NFL field where you hear them, John Saxon for Steelers, lots of other running coaches in the NFL, talk about having to hold on to the rock, having to pull all in, and to go in drills where someone's trying to tap the ball on your arm to try to get away from you. Look, that thing is your life. If you drop the rock, you drop your life, and that's exactly what happened in that one fumble opening drive by Kareem Hunt, but since then has been absolutely fantastic. 166 yards, 6.3 per carry, and has just been on a serious tear. He is the only game that he didn't pull 100 yards in is against the Philadelphia Eagles, 27-20. And don't forget the Chiefs are on a roll, but they face a very determined opponent in the Pittsburgh Steelers when they come to Arrowhead Stadium to play them. Again, lost both times against the Steelers, one regular, one postseason run by the Kansas City Chiefs. So it makes you wonder which Chiefs team will show up. It's probably going to be my game of the week in the AFC. I'll have a game of the week in the NFC coming up later on in the week. But right now, that is a game to watch. Yeah, I am a fan. I realize the implications of this. If the Steelers don't win, they can put them into a 500. If the Ravens win, it puts them at first place in the AFC North. Look, I like Kareem Hunt too. I confuse it with Hakeem Nicks of the New York Giants. Odd, I know. Not of the Giants. Just brutal. Well, yesterday's games, you see the Packers, I'm in the wrong week here. I thought it was week 5, but it wasn't. My apologies there. So let's go to week 5 in the NFL and kind of give you the rundown of what we were looking for, or rather what should have been looked for if you were the 49ers, who went into overtime. That was a good game. That was a very good game. Probably one of the best games in last week's season in the NFL. But the Colts went on to beat them in overtime with a field goal 26-23. What a game is that? In overtime, of course, you see the Jaguars do so much more to the Steelers than they really want to see. And that was 30-9 at Heinz Field. The Bengals upended the Bills 20-16, and their record is now 2-3. So it makes you wonder, again, this is a young season. This is a young NFL season, so we're going to find out what these teams are made of by week 6 or 7. Who's going to be better, who's going to not be as good, and who's going to really take it to the whole. Titans lost. I was shocked about that game. Dolphins decided to tear them apart 16-10. Of course, you had the Baltimore Ravens going into Oakland. The Oakland Coliseum, one of the hardest places to play in because of how ravenous the fans are, but nobody's more ravenous than the Ravens themselves, who upended the Oakland Raiders 30-17. Of course, they're missing Derek Carr big time, and A.J. Manuel, just not the same kind of guy you're looking for in the quarterback position. That's why he's a backup. And as you'll notice, as time goes on, no one is still talking to Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick posted, it was a CBS post, CBS Sports Network, talking about how he had stated that he's ready to go by the NFL team that's going to sign him. What that does in the NFL, I don't know. He's not Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon hasn't played in the league in 3 years. Well, it's a different story for Josh Gordon due to a drug situation that he maintains he has control over. But again, if you're somebody who's abused drugs before and the history indicates that you're going to abuse them again, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to have a whole lot to speak of and still does not have a job, just like Colin Kaepernick. Interesting paradigm right there. Packers took care of business at AT&T Stadium. I called this game, meaning that I foreseen the Packers beating the Cowboys again, just like they did last year, 35-31. Aaron Rodgers just doing so many great things, getting it to everybody. Absolutely everybody. Anybody and everybody. Defense played really good. Mike Daniels was on it. I seen a sack by Clay Matthews. They just look good. They look really, really good. Packers going to win that one 35-31 is the final. Of course, a lot of miscues by the Dallas Cowboys offensively as well as defensively with unnecessary penalties. Penalties will kill you, man. I don't care what sport you're in, especially in the NFL. That sets you back in negative field position or gives your opponent better field position to find themselves in a place on the field to score. And that's exactly what happened there. Vikings took care of the Bears last night, and of course that was on Monday Night Football. Jets beat the Browns. It is really interesting. Somebody posed this question to me, saying, you know what? How do the Jets have the same record as the Steelers? Since when were the Jets 3-2? Good question. Anybody want to look that up? Please make sure that you reach out to me live on Facebook. Thank you for the interaction. Stephen Askins on Facebook Live as well as on Spreaker. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show on the Two Light Stews Radio Network. It's good to be back. It's Monday. For some, it's Monday and Monday. For me, not so much. Oh, Aaron Rodgers is the captain comeback. I haven't seen anybody. No quarterback all season long. I'd say maybe in the last 4 seasons or so, the only person that I've seen do that to be a comeback clutch quarterback in the NFL is Ben Roethlisberger. No, Ben is not the same, but he is committed, so let's see what happens. He is a true competitor. I've seen him. Look, you don't win 2 Super Bowls because you're a slacker or a sloucher or you're too busy crying or whining. Speaking of crying and whining, how about Odell Beckham Jr. out for the season with an ankle break? That's right, Rory. I'm talking to you. You still owe my Starbucks card, by the way. I just want to make sure I collect on that. The Jets upended the Browns 17-14. Chargers win their first game of the year against a now Beckham-less Giants. The biggest question is whether or not you keep Eli Manning. Do you stick with Eli Manning? Do you draft a quarterback in the 2018 NFL draft? Do you bring in, I'm going to say it again, Colin Kaepernick? Do you bring in Kaepernick? What do you do? I think Ben will play okay, but I don't want okay from Ben Roethlisberger. And Giants fans don't want okay from Eli Manning. These guys get paid millions of dollars to perform at the highest level. This is just that. And if you're not ready to play, get off the field and allow somebody else to do it. Because Ben Roethlisberger is yet, and you know what, in all fairness, Ben doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. No, not you, not me, just a man in the mirror that he looks at every single morning. I think Ben Roethlisberger needs to be great. I don't want him to be okay. I want him to be great. And you're right, Brandon Marshall out for the season. Harris is done. You know what? That's exactly what I was going to talk about, Kelvin. Getting rid of Eli Manning, trading Eli Manning, or keep him, right? Get a guy in there, draft a quarterback, get Colin Kaepernick, do something. Do something. Maybe they should reach out to some old veterans that they decided to cut. Ben McAdoo's not been good at play calling. He showed that last year. The Giants barely squeaked into the playoffs. He's not very good. Oh yeah, okay, fine, Kelvin, so Ben will bounce back. But that doesn't mean anything. He can bounce back and play at the best ability. We all know what Roethlisberger can do. But it's what he hasn't done up till 5 weeks in the season. I'm waiting for him to explode and do the best that he can and do what works and makes sense for the Steelers team. Because right now, as a fan, I'm worried. As an analyst, I'm going to shake my head. I think Drew Brees is happy with his multi-million-dollar contract on the New Orleans Saints. Hey, look, if you're playing the way he is, they're paying you to be on it. Stick with what you know. Stick with what's working. That's exactly what's working for Drew Brees. Right? Right. No one trying to recreate the wheel here. No one. But speaking of recreating the wheel, Panthers getting back on track, beating the Detroit Lions in Carolina 27-24. I just can't believe the Chargers won, though. That's crazy. I actually bet on that team. Not bet like with actual dollars, but I mean bet on him as far as actually winning and keeping the Giants winless. And so far, that's exactly what's going on at 0-5. It would surprise me if Ben McAdoo is fired. It's not like he inherited anything extremely messy. He didn't inherit anything that was absolutely horrible. I mean, look at Hugh Jackson. That's what he inherited, and that's what he continues to clean up. They're now 0-5, the Cleveland Browns. Did anybody expect them to be 1-2, 2-3? Look, my hopes is that the Cleveland Browns were going to hop, skip, and jump all over Cincinnati. Of course, that is not the case. But at least not at this point in the season. There's plenty of time to go. Then you've seen the Eagles just decimate the Arizona Cardinals 34-7. You want to talk about a great game from Carson Wentz. He did everything that he wanted to do, everything you would ask of a second-year quarterback to do, and that's exactly what he did. Cardinals just look anemic. You could tell by the expressions, the attitude, the personality, everything that happened on that Cardinal sideline was the word implosion. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. Do not step any closer. It was bad. It was ugly. It was seen. People blowing up, defensive linemen throwing things. It was downright nasty. Super, super nasty. But again, Adrian Peterson to the rescue for the Arizona Cardinals, or is that the case? We're going to find out if he even plays Sunday at all. The Eagles look good. NFC East. It's not the Giants season, I can tell you that right now. It's anti-Giant season. The Philadelphia Eagles are taking off. I was watching the show with Vince Papale of the Philadelphia Eagles. That was a great movie. That was a absolutely great movie. And of course, everybody liked the Star Wars trailer. I know I did yesterday. That was, man, I had the receiver blasting on that. Defense is playing well. Malcolm Jenkins certainly get a part of the game. Early and often, Ravens just destroy the Raiders 30-17. Seahawks win in Los Angeles 16-10 over the Rams. Rams were one of the hottest NFC offenses in the NFL. Goes down in flames as you've seen Jared Goff trying to get it early and often to Todd Gurley. Just didn't quite work out that way. Seahawks want to win at 16-10. And then the Chiefs, too much Alex Smith, too much Kareem Hunt, too much Conley, too much everything. As they've done it 5 games in a row, the Chiefs are now 5-0, beating up the Texans 42-34. I'll tell you, this has been an interesting NFL season so far, and I'm putting that mildly. Between the whole kneeling national anthem to, it's absolutely everything. It's just kind of sad to see this all unfold in the NFL. You see a president getting involved in sports. Now it's sports politics. Look, the NFL doesn't need any more politics. They already have their own. It's kind of sad to see how the NFL is going to try to possibly make money out of this situation with the whole kneeling and X, Y, and Z and ABC. It's just really, really interesting, and it's a good point because when you look at the NFL, when you look at the ratings, some of that has dropped off. And when the NFL drops off, what do? They look for bigger pockets. They look for larger pockets. And who do they go to? The players, because they have the pockets. See, my show's not syndicated yet. Yeah, keyword, yeah. This is up to the Lord upstairs. But when you look at what's going on in sports right now, there are a lot of situations, a lot of bad situations that could possibly get even worse. This isn't doomsday. The sky is not falling. I haven't fallen off anywhere. But based on what I'm looking at now, the NFL is just bad. Oh, that's correct. Conley's gone for the season. And Travis Kelce is questionable. So against the Steelers, I think a lot of those key losses between Kelce and Conley, even Justin Houston was shaken up. He's one of those solid pass rushers on that team. What's going on, Ninja? That Ninja. I don't even know your name. I'll tell you. You can call me whatever you want. Don't call me late for dinner. It's Ninja. So that Ninja says hello right here on the Two Life Stews Radio Network on the Rude Dog Show. By the way, I'm live on Facebook. This show will be a presentation of my show. Well, what's really interesting is that I look at other sports. They may have their own problems, their own issues, their own situations. Some of that is a little fabricated. You've heard of fake news. I think fake news applies everywhere. Just going around in Facebook of Michael Bennett holding on to the flag that's on fire in the locker room instead of just having a tantrum. That's fake news. Don't believe everything you see. Don't believe everything you read. Find out for yourself. You want to know? Get to the bottom of it. But let's look at the receiving core. Actually, rather the upcoming, of the season. Of course, the Chiefs played the Steelers in a 125 game. They're in Oakland, always a tough place to play in Oakland against the Raiders. And Denver, Monday Night Football, again, how do the Chiefs have all these fantastic Sunday Night Footballs? 2 Monday Night Footballs and a Sunday Night Football. Week after week after week. It's just, I don't know. And then Kansas City takes their show on the road against Dallas, AT&T Stadium in New York. At home against Buffalo, going to New York to play the Jets. At home, in the last 3 to 4 games at home against Oakland, Los Angeles, Miami, and then against Denver in Denver. And when you look at preseason, that's how much preseason means. Everybody wants to have the conversation about what preseason means, and preseason means nothing. Why? Because at preseason marker for the Kansas City Chiefs, they were at 500. Protection of quarterbacks turned some football fans off. That's exactly what I was going to say. 3:30 your time, Kelvin. 1:30, or excuse me, and Kansas City. Oh, because they're Central Standard Time, so it's 1:30 here, Pacific Time. We're talking about. You can argue that taking defenses out of the game, giving quarterback a little too much, you may as well strap a diaper on them and give them some type of binky, if you will. I think there's a lot to be said for why that is. I think a lot of that has to do with when you go ticky-tack on a lot of defensive calls, that turns fans off because that means that could set the tone for the remainder of the game. Some would rather watch another game. But how much inconsistency do you see in the NFL from a reffing standpoint? A lot. A lot. There is no game, and probably will never be a game in the NFL where you're going to see refereeing equalized throughout the NFL. In any given week, there is no parity from that standpoint. All those referees do their own thing when they want to do it, how they want to do it. Yeah, they follow the rule book, but a lot of that's open to interpretation. I like the fact that they go back to New York, even though they question what they're talking about, question the penalty on the play, and sometimes recently they'll throw flags, not explain why they threw it, but yet there's no penalty. And then sometimes they will say it. It's just really, there is no parity in today's NFL coaching, period. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show on the 2 Live Stews Radio Network. Make sure, go to therudedogshow.com, check out this show as well as any other past shows. I had one with Sean Merriman. I have an ESPYs page with Dante Freeman, Malcolm Jenkins. Trying to help some of the ones that I do have that don't listen, can't really listen to what they're saying because it's all chopped up. So I'm going to see if I can get the audio repaired. Those are very valuable interviews. Even though they're not very long, they're still valuable, at least to me. And it should be to you. So in week 5, let's look at some upcoming games here. In week 6 in the NFL, we have Eagles, Panthers, Thursday Night Football. This Thursday, you know what? This is probably game of the week in the NFC for me. I had the AFC, I had the NFC. And that ninja replies again, I think any sports league owes consistent refereeing to their fans. I agree with that completely. I wish they worked on that as much as they did image control. Here's that. The NFL can't control what the referees do. They can tighten the rules. They hire them. They're full-time refs, not somebody who just ended their shift at a hardware store. They're now coming out. They owe it to their fans, but the fans aren't going to see it. They're just not going to see it. But I agree with you with the fact that they need to work on the parity across the board for NFL refereeing as they did image control for themselves. That I completely agree with. But again, unrealistic. I just don't think it's going to happen. I just don't. You'll see the Bears take on the Ravens, 49ers, Redskins, Dolphins, Falcons. That ought to be an interesting game. Patriots, Jets, Rams, Jaguars, Steelers, Chiefs, Packers, Vikings. I think the Packers may be in for a closer game than they think with Case Keenum. But Aaron Rodgers to pull that one off. Lions at Saints. Browns at Texans. Texans will just destroy them. Buccaneers, Cardinals. That's a toss-up. That game is all dependent on whether or not Adrian Peterson, I know, wishful thinking. I totally understand you there. Believe me. A lot of wishful thinking going on in the NFL right now, from its fans to social media. Everybody's wishfully thinking that something would happen in the NFL. More to fans, that they wouldn't lose any more fans, that the ratings would continue to climb. But this is just a black guy. Right now, the black guy's still there. I don't care how many pieces of meat, bags of peas, ice. The Cardinals, if Adrian Peterson can get involved in the playbook, I think he'll play. You're going to see a big difference in that Cardinals running game. But the Cardinals really need to stop the run that they have there in Tampa Bay. Chargers, Raiders, always a tough game. I think it's more evenly matched now that you have E.J. Manuel, because the Chargers give up some runs, and sometimes they give up the runs they don't need to give up when they don't need to give them up. So that's going to be a very good game as well. Giants, Broncos, I know the answer to that question. Unfortunately, the Giants are going 0-6, and the Denver Broncos will end up taking care of business. Colts, Titans. Now, this is going to be a very interesting game. Battle of the AFC South. I think when you look at Marcus Mariota, he wasn't quite the same. That's one of the reasons why they lost. And the Colts with Jacoby Brissett. And again, as I had already estimated in advance, you're not going to see Andrew Luck under center again, heading into Week 6 in the NFL. Colts, Titans, that ought to be a good one. How good? I don't know. But I hope it's a good game. I don't want a blowout. I want a game like yesterday's game. The Bears bear down all over the Vikings. The hats with the horns. Or whatever you want to call them. I don't even know. I'm not a Vikings fan, so I don't know what you want to call them. I just no idea. This is Rudy Reyes on the Root Dog Show on the Two Life Stews Radio Network. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you, everybody, for the chit-chat on Spreaker. Don't forget to turn me and follow at Root Dog Reyes. I'll have some great shows lined up in the week. And speaking of week, in 1 week's time, I'll have Brandon Marshall of Denver Broncos takes away. Make sure you tune in for that. Thanks for tuning in. Everybody have a great day. See you tomorrow.